requirement every single time we appear on camera. Just coming off the Arm Wrestling Buzz show with Paul Italia and Israel Chavez. And we had some special guests there, Auden Larratt and James English. It's one of those things where you hit the double bicep and you've got somebody like James English, who is a pro bodybuilder, in there with you. It's like, okay, I'm just going to put my arms back down now. But yeah, so we'd go live, and we had quite a few people over in the chat, the Arm Wrestling Buzz, and thought to make a nice little spot for them if they wanted to continue the conversation about arm wrestling, to find somewhere where they can do that. You can jump straight in over here, and we'll wait for a little while. We'll get some people in, but what we'll be talking about today will be, I did say I was going live, the Drew. I did in the comments there. You may not have seen it, but that's okay. I just did it on the spur of a whim, my friend. So I'll put that up there so people know what I'm doing. Always good to see you, Drew, and thank you again for all your help and promoting arm wrestling around the world on every stream. I see you there and commenting on every YouTube video that is out, so always good to see you. But today we're going to have a quick look at the King of the Table 11 lineup and the matches that are on that card. So King of the Table 11, $19.99 US for this event. It will be on June the 1st. For Australia, it'll be June the 2nd. You've got some good lineup of matches there, some interesting ones. One of the ones particular that we are very invested in is the Schoolboy and Ryan Bowen match. Obviously, Ryan Bowen being a co-owner of AWE, Arm Wrestling. Should have said on the podcast, I didn't think of it until right at the end. So, and you don't always get the opportunity to say everything that you want to say. So I thought I would jump on here and just sort of continue with the flow of conversation. And yeah, if people want to join in, that's great. If they don't, that's okay as well. So Ryan Bowen and Schoolboy, obviously Ryan Bowen being a co-owner of AWE, the Arm Wrestling Entertainment company that we run here in Australia. We do. David Hux is here. Hello to you, David. Good to see you, mate. Hope you're going well. And it is in the middle of the day here in Australia. It's 1 p.m. So it's always fun doing a show in the US, especially at their nighttime, because it's right in the middle of our daytime, which is great for me in terms of time. I did get up reasonably late this morning, so I looked quite. You'd see yourself on the screen, and you're just like, but energy drink kicked in and started to move along quite nicely. So just briefly run over these matches. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this screen so that you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm going to add source. Always makes it better when I've got the other screen that I can bring up here for everybody to see. Is it sign up or is it home? I think it's sign up. Yeah, that's the one. All right, there we go. Now, bring that up here on the screen for you. There we go. So that is on the Core Sports website there, and you can see the matches that they've got lined up for King of the Table 11, $19.99 USD, which is, what was that, about 30-something Australian? I might even do that calculation because I'm quite interested to know that, actually. USD to AUD, that is $19.99. Is $30.25 Australian. So $30 for King of the Table 11, featuring that lineup of matches there. So that's one of those things is always wanted to support arm wrestling around the world, and happy to pay for events when they're putting on quality events, and especially when your teammates and your friends are going to be on the show. And that's what we're seeing here with Ryan Bowen and Lock on Adair. Obviously from Australia, number 1, number 2 guys, although Rickard Bauman pushing up for that to challenge that potential rank there, but yet to have a face-off with either of those two, Lock-on or Ryan. But very interesting card. We've got Schoolboy versus Ryan Bowen. We've got Paul Lynn versus Lock-on Adair. We've got Rebaz Letizzi versus Georgie. God, how do you say that surname? I just know him as Georgie. Michael Todd is also on the card versus Lars Robakin, Oli Petrenko, and again, Ongabayev. I've heard people say his name, but I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it. And Camille versus Vitali, which we were talking about on the Arm Wrestling Buzz show before. Camille being a fantastic presser. And Artem Morozov versus Ivan Matyushenko for the main event. Tall Paul is here. The mat is back, Jack. Yes. Hello to you, Tall Paul. So did you say you're 6'5" or 6'6", but then 6'5" after your aging or a back injury? Captain Obvious is here. Hey now, Matt, with the bicep. That's it. After Buzz show, nice. I love how Restream gives a description of the emoji. Nice. Face turquoise drinking coffee. I prefer that actually to the actual symbol because it makes it more descriptive, more colorful. Zaranov, yes, thank you. Which one is that for? Oh, Georgie Zaranov, thank you. I'm still probably saying it wrong, but that's okay. The Buzz After Hours, it is indeed. There we go. Oh, and David Huxley has swapped from Facebook to YouTube. Who are you going for, Lars or Monster Michael Todd? I am a big Monster Michael Todd fan. I've spoken to the man several times. I like his attitude towards arm wrestling. I think that he's going to be in this sport for life, and you can see that his last match that he had against Frank meant so much to him to get the win there. I think that his style has sort of been figured out a little bit, or he's been finding it a lot more difficult to execute his King's move on the smaller sized pads as compared to the WAL pads. I'm actually looking at the WAL table I've got that I own, which is right behind the camera here. But the pads, obviously being a lot longer, they're 9-inch. So it's 7 by 9. So 7 across, which is the same normal width, but then 9 in length. So he was able to sort of drag back further, which allowed that King's move to be more effective. We've got the emoji descriptions here. Yeah, what's this one? We've got another one. The cat orange whistling. Cat orange whistling. You can write anything you want in there, and I would believe that it would be an emoji. So, yeah, it's great. I always like that it does that. I don't know why, but it's like, let's break down. Instead of just, I can't put this symbol up, it's like, I'll make up a description of that in text. Quite good. But yes, the WL tables are comparatively to the, oh, here we go, the Drew. Some of them do work, Drew, and there you go. You're obviously experimenting. We've got those ones that have all come through all right. Certain ones don't. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's on, I don't know, I was going to say Facebook, but everyone's on YouTube watching this. So, yes. But yeah, the WL tables versus the traditional WAF 7x7 pads. Michael has found it more difficult to find success. And it was almost the first match that he had, which was strictly on WAF pads, was against Devin Larratt, which obviously Devin ended up winning that match and taking the hammer and taking the heavyweight title. And since then, Michael has sort of found it very difficult to get back on top. He sort of wins one, loses one, wins one, loses one. And then he lost a couple in a row. So it'd be great to see him get back on a big win streak and start pushing towards those upper elite levels. I think he's just outside of that at the moment. I know he was dealing with some injuries, and this is one of those things. This was with the King's move. I was so happy that they didn't ban that move. They've made adjustments. The shoulder has to be above the table and the arm can't be. So there is okay. But if you angle your humerus bone, now it's not okay because of the angle of your humerus bone. They brought in some rule adjustments to combat it, but they didn't eliminate it, which is I'm very happy about. And the reason I'm happy about it is because it allowed people to learn how to combat it. It wasn't an unbeatable move. It was just very difficult to overcome. And so people had to learn all these different new techniques of how to beat that move. And that knowledge wouldn't have been gained if you just flat out outlined it. What am I trying to say? I'm mixing two words here. Outlawed it. I was going to say outlawed and banned at the same time, and I got confused. But yes, if you had just flat banned that move, then we really would have missed the opportunity to learn all that progressive growth knowledge which has come about. And you see the King's move is still being employed. A lot of people have added it to their game, but it's not as dominant as when Michael was using it. And maybe that's to do with the pads, but it is definitely one of those things that I'm a fan of people figuring out how to adjust to things rather than just banning it and not being happy with it. Tall Paul says, except here in America, if you type in woman, a fella emoji pops up. Yeah, that's it. Drew says, testing. It's the normal ones, but not the extra newer ones. Maybe that's what it is. There you go. And here we go. Captain Obvious has found one. Face orange biting nails. I love that. Oh, and we've got the Drew. Rocket red countdown, lift off. Thanks, Doc. Wash hands, elbow bump. I love these. They're great. They need to make adjustments about starting in a press. Just my opinion. Yeah, that's one of those things, isn't it? Because the referee is obviously going to be squaring your shoulders, and they want both shoulders facing forwards. You don't want sort of this carving or this angled position. But it is one of those really difficult things as a referee, and I hope that more people get involved in refereeing and officiating, because the sport really does need more good officials, and it will help you understand what people are doing on the table in setups, because you'll see what people are trying to get away with as the referee, and you're going to be constantly correcting, and it's like, come on, man, so just move your shoulder in, stop moving it out. Or you can feel like where people are moving to get advantage positions. And so as a referee, you get the opportunity to, if you do say 10 matches, there's 10 matches worth of knowledge of setups and maybe multiple rounds that you wouldn't have had otherwise. And especially if you're trying to figure out how to make sure that the match gets started as fairly as possible, and you get two people that are quite difficult and not listening to your instructions, and then you've got to explain the rules, or give warnings or fouls, and it can give you a much better understanding as to what you can get away with on the table and what you should be doing when you're on the table. So yeah, starting in the press position is one of those things. Like for me, when I'm refereeing a match, the first thing I do is square the shoulders. I get the shoulders set, and I normally put my hand on the shoulder. So don't move your shoulder from this position. Then I'll start looking at the hands and then finding center. Then I do webbing. And then I'll look back at their shoulders. And if they have moved from that position, then I'm more than likely I'm just going to square them up again. But if they do it again, that's where you can say, look, you keep moving your shoulder. There's a hard warning for that. Or you can even give a foul and say, look, you're moving, especially if it's ref's grip or something like that. You can say, look, no moving in ref's grip. I've warned you. I said, do not move your shoulders past this position. I've lined your hands up. Everything here is looking good. I've looked back. You've brought your shoulder in like this. So it's one of those things. It's incredibly difficult to manage so many different areas at once. You got shoulders, you got the elbow on the table, whether or not the elbow's on the pad or not, because some people will sit on the very edge of the pad and they'll have like the elbow bone past, but like the skin is hanging on. And then it's like trying to find the center, and then trying to get the webbing height correct, and then trying to make sure neither guy is curving in or out, and no pressuring from either guy. And then you're trying to manage all of that at once. Your thumbs down, hands closed, and as you're about to go, both guys they start manipulating and twisting and moving, and it's like stop. So yeah, it can be very difficult, especially like with elbow fouls. If you're the head referee, this is, the main reason you've got a down ref is that he's going to be looking for elbow fouls. But if you're the head referee and you're standing up, managing the hands and the athlete's shoulders and body position, you say go, and somebody like instantly flash pins, and it's like the other guy goes, I don't think I got pinned. And it's like, well, how do you expect me to get from up here to eye line height in a quarter of a second? Your hand went down. So it can be very difficult, and it does rely on good, experienced referees to see whether pins have occurred, whether elbow fouls have occurred. it's difficult. It's not an easy thing. And there's times when people have sent me videos and gone, oh, look, you've missed this elbow foul that this guy's doing right here. Big elbow foul. You missed it, didn't call it. And I'm like, look where my eyes are looking. You can see my eyes in the video, and I'm looking at the other elbow of the other competitor. So it's like I can't look at both elbows at the same time, have one eye on each one. So it's like, if your down ref didn't call it, and you can see that I'm looking at the other person, it is a very difficult job. So yes, it is one of those things that I think could be adjusted with the sport. Is so reliant on the referees, and the setups is yeah, it's difficult. Ideally, you just want somebody to walk up and go, but the fact that there's so much ability to be able to win a match just from your hand position. If you've got somebody that you're starting slightly higher or slightly more carved or slightly has their shoulder in, even by a quarter of an inch, it could be the difference between winning and losing. So yes, it's a difficult thing to find a perfect answer for. I mean, you look at the different organizations that are out there that are running different styles of matches and setups and all the rest of it, where you've got your very strict style with your WAP setups and referees grip, where it looks like there's two people setting up perfectly, and then the referee's like, nah, yeah, that's a foul on you. And it's like, well, where was the foul? What happened? And you're getting matches ending in fouls left, right, and center, and you don't even get to see the actual match. Versus something where it's a lot more relaxed, and the rules are not enforced as much. And it's like that's sort of the route that I prefer, is if somebody's not getting an advantage from a foul, and the setups are as fair as what you can make it without being completely ridiculous and spending 20 minutes on it, then I'm happy to see that match. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I want to see the arm wrestling, and I want to see, when they say go, I want to see a pin. Let me catch up on the comments here. Huxley Arm Wrestling says it will be interesting. Last top rolled mate. Maybe it's Mate that you're saying. Mate being Mataringi Morris from New Zealand. Lars is a very strong man, and yeah, it'll be a good match. It's one of those things with Michael's style, being that defensive open top roll, but he does have a really good press as well. So whether or not he implements that, we'll see what happens with that. And Lars is a beast. He is indeed. Absolutely. Completely agree. Dakota Shipton says, hey, Matt, love the stream, man. Keep up the good work. You'll have to come on my podcast sometime. I love to, Dakota. I know you've got a big match coming up. We were talking about your match last week, and I heard lots of good things about you. And this is the specific information that I remember being said. He's a very well-spoken young man. He seems very intelligent, and he's a hardworking, disciplined athlete. So anyone that does those sorts of things has my respect, and I would love to be on the show. If you ever want me on there, I'd be more than happy to be on there. It'd be an absolute honor. Captain Obvious says, turned into an emoji chat just to see the descriptions. Yeah, that's right. That's great. Ryan Bussier says, yo, everybody. Hello to you, Ryan. The Drew says, TP, just your, in my opinion. Okay. Huxley says, you're a good ref. Well, thank you very much, Huxley. I try to referee as many matches as I possibly can. It's one of the things I would love to see more people stepping up and doing it. And unfortunately, one of the things that is a detriment in this sport is that people do cop aggression and sometimes abuse from competitors when they are refereeing. And some people just don't appreciate that to the point where they're like, I will never referee again. I've had that from several people that I've said, hey, like they may have stepped up and refereed a couple of little things at the club. And then when we had an event, I said, can you referee this class, or can you referee that that division or whatever over there? And they're like, yep, no worries. And then they've come back to me in 20 minutes and going, I'm never doing that again. Like I people were so nasty and horrible to me, and this is not what I wanted to get into the sport for, which is really unfortunate that you get competitors that are so focused on winning and getting their little manipulation in that they turn on the referee. And even at the elite levels, you do see that. You see people yelling at the referees, abusing the referees. It's like this behavior I'm not a fan of at all. I don't like that. Guys, just say hello to each other in the chat there. Huxley trying to hurt me. The Drew. Yodel Paul. Yes, Drew, I'm not alone in this opinion. What was the opinion there? Not many refs. Oh, here we go. Not many refs go in there and not take no crap from the pullers. Yeah, it is a difficult thing, Paul, to it takes a certain type of person to be able to be authoritative and enforce rules. And if you're going to tell somebody, I'm going to foul you if you do that again, and then they do it again and you foul them and they get angry at you, it's like, the end result is it's their responsibility. They should have listened to your instructions, regardless as to whether or not you're doing it correctly or whatever. If you're there trying and you're volunteering your time and you're assisting as much as you can to allow them to have a match, be respectful for the people that are doing that. And if you don't agree with something, there's different ways to voice that. You can say, look, I think that that's not right, or maybe wait until afterwards. And even if the match doesn't go your way, you can discuss it with the referee afterwards, especially if it's a local match or a club match or something. There's no point getting, so worked up over it. It was funny as all. That's good. It was great to see so many people in here and lots of comments, which is awesome. It means I get to have a good conversation with people. I'm just quickly reading through them, so I'm old. It's past my bedtime, Drew. I think it is late in the US. It's probably around midnight or something. This is the Drew's waking up hour. The Drew, I believe he is out there doing deliveries, and he's always up quite late. There could be ways to use some technology to assist the referees, lasers, etc. So I'm just picturing like a James Bond laser style. No, I've done a similar thing with that, and I got just one of those pen light lasers, with the button, and it just puts the laser pointer, and I've hung that from the ceiling, so it lines up directly with the very center of the table. So I measured out the very center of the table, put a large dot there, and then put the laser pointer dot on that, so that every time that the athlete's hands were lined up, I made sure that that dot was on their hand. Quite useful, and it allowed people to find the center very easily. And the table would move around in between rounds. You just slide it straight back into position again. I thought that was helpful. So maybe I'll start doing that again. I thought it was tastes. Yeah, that's right. I said square your shoulders. That'd be great. Oh, Paul Talia, hello to you, sir. Always good to see you, my friend. And I think we did a great show before on the Arm Wrestling Buzz, and I think we had 176 people watching, which is absolutely amazing. And yes, I always appreciate being part of the show there. Tasers to be used at Armed Gods, though. Yes, well, that wouldn't surprise me. You see Paul Maiden just step out with a cattle prod halfway through a round if somebody's king's moving or something. Stay in the laser grid, says Captain Obvious. Yeah, that's right. You get zapped. The Italia is here. Yes, that's right. Paul Italia, what an absolute legend. Geez, Paul, good show. There we go. Mr. Italia. Thank you, guys. It was a great buzz show tonight for sure. That's it. There we go. Oh, thank you very much. Let's hit the thumbs up button, guys, out and help Matt out. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. And you've helped me out tremendously. And yes, it's such a wonderful community to meet so many awesome people. And Paul Italia is one of those guys. It's not too far away from 1,000. That's right. I think I'm about 840 or something at the moment for the subs. But I just appreciate being able to get on here and talk to other arm wrestling fans. And yeah, if we get that 1,000, that'd be great. If not, I'm still going to keep doing what I'm doing. I've been doing this for, I think, 5 years now, making content and pushing arm wrestling as much as we can. And we're seeing the results of that in our local club as well. Around the world, people pushing arm wrestling through social media channels. We're seeing different podcasts popping up all over the place. And it's great that we're getting more and more people coming along to the club, and not only coming along, but coming along and having an understanding of arm wrestling and having an understanding as to what the techniques are. Even if they've never been on the table, they may have found the sport through some sort of means of maybe YouTube, or through Facebook, or through Devin Larratt, or through maybe it's come up through my stuff, and then they've come along to our training session. They know all the people there already from the videos. They've got an idea as to what they'll be expected will happen in the training session. So it's an absolute privilege to be able to do this, and I appreciate anybody that comes in here. Voodoo, found you, Matt. Oh, there you go. Hello to you, Voodoo. Love the little voodoo doll icon in your name there as well. Dakota Shipton, I will send you a message on Instagram and we can set something up. Sounds great, Dakota. I would love to do it. All right. Matt Connelly 13 is my Instagram handle. And Ryan says it's 9:45. His time is not too bad. It's 1:20 on Thursday afternoon here. Drew is a vampire and he's up all night. That's right, he is. There's actually 4 different Drews, and you're talking to the night shift Drew. Yeah, well, 11:45. I wasn't too far away. I said it was about midnight, so there you go. Freaking laser beam. Yeah, that's right. Sharks with freaking lasers. Here's another emoji that hasn't come up properly. Body blue raised arms. Love that one. Pressure sensors on pin pads. Yes, I do like that idea. I was thinking about that a couple of years ago. The thing that I don't like about that is the matches that get stopped for very minor elbow fouls, especially an elbow foul when nobody got an advantage from it. If you're feeling like side pressure from your opponent, and all of a sudden they transition to rising pressure, and you just sort of slightly pop, a minuscule amount while you're adjusting to that pressure, and that would probably be called as a foul. And it's like, there was no advantage gained from that movement. And it's more than likely going to happen, and more than likely going to make matches be dragged out longer if you've got constant elbow fouls. I think the less fouls, the better. If you can just get the match started and it ends with a winner, then that's the best result you can have. The worst thing for me is the current rule that you're seeing in WAF and with the core sports side of it. This rule really actually pisses me off. When a guy is losing, he's about to get pinned, and he elbow fouls, gets a restart. How is that a fair thing? That is completely ridiculous. You saw that with Levan and Hermes Gasparini. The time Hermes had got the stop and got his elbow behind his hand, and he started turning it around and pushing back towards the pin pad. And it's like, oh my God, he might get the pin here. And then Levan just fouls, gets a restart, gets to have another go at it. It's like, this is not, you need to adjust that. That needs to go instantly, because if you're on your way to losing and you foul, that should be a loss. We've written that into the AWE rule set. We call it a professional foul. If you do a foul to avoid a loss, it is a loss. I watched some side fighting today for the first time. It's like a train wreck. Horrible, but I can't stop watching it. It is like a train wreck. It is like the car crash appeal that people are just literally smacking each other in the face with no defense whatsoever. I'm incredibly disappointed that Dana White got involved in that after, I'm such a UFC fan and have been for many, many years. And then, hearing Dana talk about fighter safety, and they brought in all these rule sets to keep the fighters, they must be intelligently defending themselves for the match to continue. And, they've never had a serious injury in the UFC, as in no deaths, no permanent paralyzation, anything like that, which is absolutely incredible. We think the amount of shows that they've ran over the years, and to never had that. I mean, boxing, there's a couple of deaths every year, but to go and do something like slap fighting and promote that and get involved in that, not only getting involved in it, but then making your own league. And it's literally people just getting smacked in the face as hard as they possibly can. And it's just like, what the hell is this, man? Like, if you wanted to get involved in this, you should have done it as a silent partner. It very frustrating to see that. Matt likes most new pullers a chance for him to win. Yeah, that's it. No, I do actually love getting on with people that are there for the first time. I like to give them a good experience. I let them win. Obviously, the majority of the time I'm teaching. I love seeing the strength difference in somebody stepping up to the table, and then 5 minutes later they're 10 times as strong as they were, because they're just now employing the technique properly, and they've added their body weight and their frame into what they're doing. And it's like, you would destroy yourself from 5 minutes ago. And I love feeling that, and then seeing where people are strong, as in, this person may understand the top roll really easily, but they just can't get the idea of supination and hooking or pressing, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe they're like, I just can't understand the coordination with the top roll, but they just get in with the press, and being able to sort of find what people are good at, and then encouraging them and making sure they have a good time. I always enjoy that. Paul says, I think something as simple as colored chalk on the pin line or pin pad would do a great job. Yeah, it is. Again, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. It's how strict do you want to be on the elbow fouls? Pin lines. Yeah, it's almost like I feel that at the high levels, it'd be better to have every single pin reviewed on instant replay. I mean, unless it's like, a very obvious pin, but to have it replayed, because there's so many times where I've been refereeing a match, and it's like, say that's the pin pad, and somebody's hand's like, and it's like, did that go beneath? Did it? It's like, I don't know. I couldn't see. It went too fast. It was like, if you've bounced and whether or not you didn't go below and then came back, or if you did go below and came back up in a quarter of a second, it's like, I can't see that fast. And especially if I'm not expecting to look for it. So, yeah, I think having video replay is a very powerful tool. Yeah, colored chalk, sure. Yeah. I've never used one of the tables with the string pin lines though, so yeah, it'd be interesting to use one of those actually. The Drew says body blue raised arms again. It's like oh, that one. Okay, that girl emoji, or yeah, okay, putting your hands up. That's great, Drew. I'm glad you figured that out. Yes, Dana definitely should have stayed away from slap fighting, especially after he just got caught slapping his wife. Or maybe it was a promotion for the new event. It's so annoying to me. And I don't know, you guys maybe get this as well. The people, when you talk about arm wrestling, I say you've met them for the first time, and you bring up arm wrestling, and then they transition into slap fighting, and it's like, oh yeah, I've been watching that slap fighting, and it's like, that's completely different. It's nothing to do with arm wrestling whatsoever. In fact, it's almost the opposite of arm wrestling. It's striking. I don't get it. Where's the correlation there? Get your UFC jar? That's right. They might as well just kick each other in the jewels then. Yeah, well, that's probably next. That's probably the next thing. What is it from South Park, the Rochambeau or whatever? That I'm not even surprised. It's insane. It's insane to think that people are doing that. I mean, somebody has died already in slap fighting, not in Dana White's event, but I think it was in Eastern Europe. A guy got basically KO'd in the event. Woke up and all the rest of it, and then went home. Brain swelled, and they got into hospital, and he died. So it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous sport. Not even a sport. It's just a spectacle. Sorry, I didn't read that comment. Captain Obvious. I only see the pictures of slap aftermath. The swelling and blood vessel pops. Yeah, it's getting hit in the face with no defense whatsoever. Standing there, deliberately getting hit in the face. And who, like, if you get to go first, you got a massive advantage over your opponent. It's so stupid. Half their face turning Elephant Man. Absolutely. Captain, it's wild. There's usually a knockout in every slap match. That's not surprising. And you've got people that are specifically training for it, and you cannot defend yourself at all. You're basically just seeing if you could take what they've got. It's absolutely ridiculous. When leg kicks to the face league starting, yeah, well, there you go. And what's the next thing? One of the Russian slap fights, I think. Yes, that's right. That's right. I didn't know someone died from it. Absolutely. And what else could help promote CTE more? Brain injuries. That's right. Yeah, I can't believe that is a real thing. I mean, when it came around, the first time I saw it was probably similar with what you guys would have seen, those underground slap matches that looked like they were all in Russia. Everything's in Russia like that. And it was like, oh, this is funny to watch because it's so stupid. Like, I can't believe these guys are doing it. But then to create an actual league for it and promote it is like, what the hell is this? And yeah, you can see on because the UFC's Instagram channel, they were promoting slap fighting on there as well. Every time they'd put anything up about slap fighting, all the comments were like, slap fighting is stupid. If you're going to keep posting this, we're going to unfollow the page. So yeah, people will watch it from the car crash spectacle aspect, but in terms of it being a legitimate thing or a good thing, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. For a few $1,000s, yeah. Maybe it was 100,000. Yeah, still not worth it, man. I mean, what happens? You die, which is likely. I mean, the guy's already died from it. Brian Shaw gets into arm wrestling, has a match at Shaw Classic. Maybe that will grab Dana's attention. Yeah, well, it seems to be that a few of the UFC or MMA guys have sort of been caught their attention has been caught by arm wrestling. Chael Sonnen has been talking about it a lot recently, which is fantastic. I don't think that I'm hoping that we wouldn't have to get somebody like Dana White to come in to be able to get it to the point where it needs to get to. I think that it'd be amazing if it wasn't just that we're relying on a Dana White or a who's the WAL guy that owns the billionaire? I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Steve Kaplan. You know, if we don't rely on somebody to just pick up on what we're doing and throw money at it, it's like, I think the natural progressive growth, which we've, the arm wrestling community has seemed to have swelled enormously since I've been involved. I've only been in the sport for 5 years, but I know that 5 years ago there was 3 people in my club, and now there's 40. And most people have an understanding. If I talk to them about arm wrestling, they'll say, "Oh yeah, there's this Canadian guy," and it's like Devin Larratt. Oh yeah, I think that's what his name. You know, they've at least seen it, or at least have heard of it, or they have an understanding that it's a real thing. Whereas in the first couple of years, it was like, it's a what? Is that a thing? I didn't think that was a real thing. So the progressive growth is on its way. It is getting there, and it has continued to rise. And look how many events we're having around the world each weekend. There's tournaments all over the place. There's new clubs popping up everywhere. There's new organizations that are coming around. I mean, we just had a new organization, the major arm wrestling championships, which was their first event on the weekend just gone. And they've tried a few different things. They've had a different style of table and some different rule sets. You've got Arm Gods, you've got Arm Wars, you've got, that was AWC, I think, is in Canada. And you've got AWE, obviously, which is the company that I'm involved with. And yeah, there's organizations that are coming up all throughout Singapore. You got Pro Panja in India. It is definitely on the rise all around the world, which is absolutely tremendous. Yeah, CTE. That's right. That's right. And was that $100,000, which has already been spent at that time, worth it? Many are older fighters too that are already punch drunk. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about the bare knuckle fighting? I've been enjoying that with some of the former UFC stars that are very good strikers have stepped their foot in the bare knuckle promotion. A lot of blood in those matches, which is always adds to the entertainment value, but it is quite interesting. Tall Paul says, I think we need more characters or personas like the Devons and Travises. Even if Levan pulled more often, that would get more eyes on it, I believe. Yeah, I think that the sport is growing naturally, and we are getting people that are finding it that have big audiences already. I mean, you look at core sports wouldn't exist without Larry Wheels. So Larry, having a very, very big channel and big following, found arm wrestling, loved it, and then got involved in it, and that has brought so much more attention to the sport, even though he's taken a step back from it at this point. But it's going to continue with that because there's more and more of these bigger stars sort of find it and get involved with it, get on the table and have fun. Then it sort of spreads the word of arm wrestling. It doesn't have to be a specific person that is an arm wrestler, but it can springboard off the momentum and the audience that other people are bringing. It's always great to have big personalities and big personas, but I don't think it's that you have to have that to be able to get the sport to the next level. I think it is on the rise. I really like where it's heading. I think that the more and more growth and awareness of the sport will bring those personalities, and you'll find that as more people get involved in it, that those stars will start to shine. It's the same with growing women's arm wrestling, and I've been asked this several times, like, how do we get more women involved in arm wrestling? I'm like, well, as arm wrestling grows as a sport, you'll find more women will be involved in it. It's the same with MMA. I mean, UFC didn't have a women's division for many, many years, and there was constant questions to Dana, when are you going to put the women in? When are you going to make a women's division? His answer was always, they're not at that level yet. And what he meant by that was that they weren't at a skill level or an ability level that he could put it on and say, this is worth you paying money to come and watch. Then they did get to that level, and they did create that league. They brought in Ronda Rousey, who was absolutely trouncing everybody, and she was a superstar. She was pretty. She's talks on the microphone. She's winning every match in the first round by armbar. And it's like, okay, well, we can do this. We've got somebody that is at that level where she's, Olympic judo medalist. She's a legit athlete, and she has the ability to be a superstar, and they were able to bring the women's division and sort of create that. So I think that women's arm wrestling will surge as arm wrestling as a whole surges. I don't think that there necessarily needs to be very specific things done. But we're seeing more and more girls getting involved with the sport, which is absolutely tremendous. The thing that needs to be done is make sure they get the opportunities. And it's like, if you're having a tournament, okay, well, we'll have a females division, and that is available so that they have the opportunity to get on the table. Neo, hello, Neo. We haven't seen you for a while. That's one of the SA Titans arm wrestling members. Hey, mate, speaking of which, what do you think of the Mac elbow pads? Yeah, well, that is an interesting question, Neo. So with Mac, they had a different style of pad, and I believe what was it? It wasn't 9x9. I think it was 8x10. I'm probably getting that wrong. Ian, who runs that, has messaged me, and I've forgotten which one it was. I think it was 8x10. The table, instead of it being a flat table as normal, it is dipped like this, and this in the bottom of the dip is where the flat section, or the 8x10 section, is where the athletes are putting their elbow and they're pulling from. And so the pads are still up here, and then it dips down, and that's where the athletes are competing. So they're still going down to the same height. The table design is quite clever. But yeah, I was a fan. I think that if you look at that event, the speed of the event was incredibly fast. They had 13 matches on their pay-per-view. They they ran through that in 2.5 hours, and they had 3 dropouts with their live stream, which held them up. So you think that might have been 2 hours to get 13 matches done. I mean, that speaks for itself. The fact that there was so few fouls committed and their setups were so quick, and they started all their matches in straps. I loved it. I thought it was tremendous. Each match straight after the other. They were very strict on their 1 minute breaks in between rounds. The athletes weren't able to just, go and walk off and get chalk or anything like that. It's like, no, you're at the table. I thought it ran really well in terms of their time, and I do love the fact that people are trying different things. This is what's interesting to me is, it's like you've got a method of arm wrestling at the moment, which, is sort of the WAF's core sports, horizontal, rectangle, traditional sort of table. And it's like, well, what can we do to improve that? How can we make this better? How can we make these setups shorter? How can we make it so fouls don't impact the match as often? Which is what you're seeing with Mac, and you're seeing that with Arm Gods and guys like that, where it's like, let's put a crazy match together, and we'll put thumbtacks on there and make it insane, and it's like, it's different. It's like, it's not for everybody, but maybe Mac's style of table, it might not be the answer to all of the issues, but it may be an improvement. Then they're like, okay, well, that's going to lead us in the direction that we want arm wrestling to go, in terms of making it very viewer friendly. I think at the moment it is very much unfriendly to new viewers. If arm wrestling were in school for 20 years, it would be up there with NFL, baseball, etc. Now, yeah, that's one of those things. I've done demonstrations in schools with the kids, and they've all loved it and had fun, and it's been great. But I have to iterate at the end. I'm like, look, I know you guys had a great time. I said, please don't go out to lunch and arm wrestle each other. So you don't know how to do it properly. I've shown you some very small things. I said, but you really need to learn how to do it correctly before you're going to get on with somebody else who is also learning, because that's how your injuries can occur. I mean, I'm sure these kids are going to go out and do it anyway, but it's like, the concern is it's relatively easy to get it wrong. And it's almost like, why isn't boxing or kickboxing in schools? Because you get people that don't know what they're doing and they get hurt. Whereas, you get something like NFL, baseball, that sort of thing. I mean, yes, people get hurt in those sports, absolutely, but it's the object, especially in say boxing. The object is not to physically injure your opponent or make them incapacitated to the point where they can't continue. And it feels like that with arm wrestling, that if you put tables in schools, that you'd probably get a whole bunch of students breaking their arms, and then they'd just get pulled out of there again. Very true, Drew. Bare knuckle boxing better than pillow fisted normal boxing. Yeah, well, that's one of the things we were talking about CTE earlier. But it's the sustained amount of punishment that you take with those larger boxing gloves in boxing that usually causes those long-term brain injuries. Because if you got hit the same way without a glove, you're getting knocked out. Whereas with the glove, maybe you're getting knocked down, but then you're getting up, and then you're getting knocked down again, and then you're getting up, and maybe you make it to the end of the round, and now you've had 2 massive punches to your head alongside of all the rest of the punches that you're accumulating. And each time you get hurt, it's like, oh, we'll give you 8 seconds to recover, and then we'll send you back in to get hurt again. It's like, there's so many elements that can go wrong with that, and that's why you see these deaths in boxing, and you do see people getting long-term brain damage and all the rest of it. Yeah, bare knuckle, obviously, it's going to have the same dangers, as in people are going to get hurt. Anytime you're getting punched in the face, it's going to come with the risk of severe brain injury. But the difference is, you get hurt, you're probably going out without the glove there. And that's what I've liked about the UFC so much, is that you get hurt, you're done. That's it. Fight's over. you're not intelligently defending yourself. You get hurt, the guy jumps on top of you, starts landing some punches, it's done. There's no 8 count. It's finished. So Adam Silver got Larry into it. True hero there, absolutely. Adam Silver, lovely guy. Met him in Queensland here at the Over the Top 2 tournament. Great to meet him and Larry. Larry's hands are very soft. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to grip up with Larry. That was the thing that I remember the most. Tyson or Jake Paul going to win? I see Tyson had a medical issue on a plane the other day, said it was an ulcer, but many peeps don't believe it was just an ulcer. Well, that match is a very clever match. It's a very cleverly marketed match, and I think that Jake Paul and Logan Paul are incredibly smart with what they do, and I know they get a lot of haters, and that really plays into what they want. And getting attention, whether it's good or bad, they know they can turn that to their favor. And having a boxing match where everyone wants to see you get beaten, they're going to pay money for that. And then it's like, okay, well, let's get the baddest dude in boxing ever, Mike Tyson. Even though, he's older, he's retired, he's still one of the most scariest names of anybody. If you said you're going to fight someone, it's like, oh, Mike Tyson. You're like, eh. So to put him in the ring against Jake, it's just money. These guys are getting attention from everything. And you think like the boxer who's like 17-0 and just committed his life to boxing, and then you've got somebody like Jake Paul who's walking in and coming in and getting worldwide attention and making millions and millions of dollars, whereas you're struggling to work a full-time job and be able to train at the same time. It just shows you the ability of playing a character and getting notoriety. It brings with it eyeballs, it brings with it attention that people can say, I want to watch that and I'm willing to pay for it. In terms of the actual match itself, Jake is a lot better boxer than people give him credit for. I think that he gets so much hate that they overlook his ability and his skill. That being said, obviously Mike Tyson is one of the most deadliest, scariest boxers that's ever lived. However, he did have that match back against Roy Jones Jr. He didn't look that great in that match. Roy was able to use his footwork very effectively and keep distance from Mike, who did look like he gassed after about the second round. So I think that's going to be the key, is that Jake's going to stay as far away as possible from Mike Tyson. I don't think Mike has the ability to fight the long fight. His arms are very short, and that's one of those things with his style, is that it's very much a bob and weave, getting in close and coming up with power, but he has to be close enough to the opponent to be able to do that. And during his younger days, he was so quick and he was so intimidating and he was able to cut the ring off so well that guys, no matter how experienced they were, no matter how good they were at fighting at distance, they just couldn't keep him off of him. And as soon as he gets in, it's like 1 or 2 punches and you're on your way to the floor. I think that Tyson's best opportunity to win that and to win by a knockout will be in that first round. It's going to continue to go down, his chances. I think it's probably going to end in a decision, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Jake Paul win a decision, and everyone will be incredibly upset about it, but it might set up a rematch and they'll make even more money. I don't know if it would be up there with the NFL, maybe lacrosse. Okay. I think that was about the schools thing. Up there, like 5th, very popular, right above tennis. This is if it was in schools, if arm wrestling tables are in schools. My brain says judo chop in Austin Powers accent every time I hear judo. That's great. I do like the fact that Joe Son, who was one of the early UFC fighters, known for getting punched in the balls by Keith Hackney, was in the Austin Powers movie as, what was his name? He was the one who threw the shoe. Not Odd Job. He was the funny version of Odd Job. I can't remember his name was, but yes, he ended up, that guy, Joe Son, he was in jail for murder, and then he ended up murdering his cellmate when he was in jail. So he is a complete nutcase, and yes, doesn't need the shoe obviously to kill people. I like the rounded edges on the Mac table. Yeah, well, I spoke to Ian about this, and he was saying that he might have to look at a few adjustments that after the event. This is one of those things. If you run the event, you don't know what you don't know. So when you see athletes doing things that you didn't expect them to do with your table, like Evan Burgoyne was able to really prop his hip up a lot closer on that setup because the table doesn't have a corner. And it's like, oh, yeah, didn't think people would do that. That's right. Maybe we'll have to make an adjustment there. Also, the dip of the table, I believe, that there's lots of things that they're looking at which might be improved. But I do love the fact that they're doing different things and trying different things because maybe from what Ian said, everyone who pulled on that table absolutely loved it. And they all preferred pulling on that table. And there were hardly any elbow fouls. So it was fantastic. Ryan Brussier. Yeah, Cap, there are tables out there with cut corners, practice tables, and I've always wondered why that didn't become the standard. I can't see it affecting the pulling negatively. Well, from what Ian was saying was that you have the ability to really scoot around it on the setup, but yeah, it just depends, what works, what doesn't work, how much of an advantage somebody can get versus how much they don't get. Yeah, it is what it is, and this is what's fun about trying new things and finding what works and what doesn't work. What's wrong with breaking your arm, says David Hux, who has broken his arm wrestling. Unfortunately. Tyson versus Jake match is a joke, but it is a big cash cow. That's absolutely correct. If it makes money, it's not a failure. And sure, you could say, okay, boxing as a sport, it should be respected to have your number one contenders and your professional side and your champions and all the rest of it. But having the ability to have exhibition matches like this, where people can go and make hundreds of millions of dollars, is I can see the argument that people would say, oh, it makes a mockery of the sport, or it doesn't follow the tradition. But it's like, look, at the end of the day, they've figured out a way to make a lot of money. And people want to see this match. They will tune in and they will watch it, and they'll pay to do it. If you are not happy with that, well, too bad, really. You've still got your original traditional boxing format, and if that was the way to do things, then they would have done it that way. But they don't need to, because they can do it another way and cut the commissions and not the commissions, but cut the traditional side of it out and say, no, this is an exhibition match. We're just going to have, whatever it is, 6 rounds. And, it's going to make them hundreds of millions of dollars. I know that Conor McGregor made $100 million fighting Floyd Mayweather. He was 0-0 as a boxer. He never fought boxing before, ever, which was one of the things, the commissions that they were. A lot of people say, well, the commission surely won't give him a license for boxing if he's never boxed before, and he's going against a 49-0 champion of multiple weight classes. This is egregious and irresponsible of the athletic commission to do that. However, they were able to argue that Conor's experience in MMA was effective enough, being a 2-division weight champion, that he would be safe getting in there. The athletic commission is about fighter safety and making sure they don't give licenses to people that have, heart conditions or AIDS, or or they're way too old, or their ability is just not there. Like, I think anybody can apply for the license, but you have to provide evidence as to why you can step into a boxing ring and not get absolutely flatlined. So the Pauls learned how to get the hate watchers after watching Bowen videos. Oh, well, there you go. That is another thing. Love you or hate you, people are watching, and that is the most important thing. Obviously you'd rather be liked, you'd rather be a hero, but some people love playing the villain. They just love it. And you look at any of the pro wrestlers and watch any of the interviews with those guys, all of them will say that being the villain was the most fun, because they could do anything and get away with it. They could be nasty. They could be nice, they could be nice one or two times if they chose to. But if you're the face, if you're the good guy, you always have to be good. You can never be bad. So yes, it gives them that freedom to play both sides of it and really push into the villain character. But then they have the ability to change it over to being the nice guy again. I mean, look at somebody like George St. Pierre, who is undoubtedly a very nice, humble, dedicated, intelligent man. And yeah, you couldn't get a bigger face character. Never really trash talked his opponents, was always respectful. How much attention him saying to Matt Hughes, I was not impressed by your performance. It's just a simple, it's not even that big of an insult to say I'm not impressed by your performance, which is actually a comment that Matt had said to him earlier, and he just said it back to him. But that was like his thing he became known for, was saying I'm not impressed with your performance, because he was such a hero character and was always polite and friendly. And it's like, but the one time he says something negative, it becomes really big. It's a big moment because it was out of character. It's like, oh, that's gone against his persona there. But yeah, I think it's very clever what they've done. If Tyson doesn't get gassed out quick, Tyson will knock him out by second round. The first two rounds will be the tale of the tape. I think that his age and his style, yeah, he'll get tired after that second round, but he may knock him out in the first 30 seconds. We'll have to watch and see. The match is free on Netflix. I actually don't know. I haven't looked at it. Oh, Tall Paul says, yeah, it's free. Okay, well, they've obviously done a deal with Netflix there, and maybe Netflix says, hey, we'll give you both, I don't know, $100 million for this. And you don't have to worry about the promotion as much, trying to sell tickets and all the rest of it. And it's just like, okay, yeah, we'll just take the 100 million. Yeah, you guys handle all the rest of it, and we're just concentrating on actually training and getting in there and fighting. That's quite a smart move. There would have been an upfront deal from Netflix to be able to hold it, because pay-per-view usually will set the standard as to. This is one of the things with Floyd Mayweather, why he was Money Mayweather, because he left the traditional style of boxing, started his own promotion, Mayweather Promotions, and started running his own events and running his own pay-per-views. So all of the money went to him, and he was able to distribute that throughout the card of the athletes that were attending on his card, as opposed to fighting for, I don't know, the ABC boxing organization and getting an agreed purse where he knows he's the star and everyone's going to be tuning in and buying the pay-per-view because of him. And it's like, well, you only get, let's say, $5 million or $10 million, where it's like, well, if I run the thing myself, if I start my own promotion, I can make 100 million. And so that's what he did. And obviously he's done that very, very effectively. And McGregor even looked at doing that slightly after the Mayweather fight. He registered a company, McGregor Promotions, and I believe he was looking at doing a similar thing. I think he was talked out of it by Dana White, but they did have a lot of disagreements back then, and as companies always do, they fall in and out with each other. Benji Mack is here. Hello to you, sir. Always good to see you. I'm not sure how far back I'm in the chat here, but I've been talking about Tyson and Jake Paul and arm wrestling in schools and all sorts of things. And sometimes I get on a tangent here, but it's one of those things. I do try to keep up with all the comments, and I do try to answer and effectively to anybody that's asking a question. There's the flippity floppity master Benji Mac. All right. Captain Obvious says, with Jones, they had an agreement not to go for headshot power punches. Yeah, well, that's the thing, is they may have an agreement in place with this as well that we don't know about. If you're Jake Paul and you're going, I know I'm going against one of the hardest strikers to have ever lived in terms of boxing ability and power, maybe we'll put a contract on put a stipulation in the contract that yeah, there may not be right hooks, or I don't know, something. You can make anything you want in a contract, but there may be something in play that we're not aware of. Ideally, you'd be like, look, it's a boxing match. Go in there and try to knock each other out. That's what we want to see. But from their perspective, maybe it's we want this to be drawn out as long as possible. We're both happy to agree to that. Let's not go too hard for the first 2 rounds, and then we'll step it up and we'll make it entertaining. It's an exhibition match. It's not an actual boxing match. It's exhibition, which means it's a show. And so with a show, you can do whatever you want, really. I mean, people can't really demand their money back if you guys go out there and put on a dance number. It's a show. They both guys turned up and did something, and you agreeing that it'll say on your ticket, this is an exhibition match. Like, it'll say that. Exhibition being, it's a performance. So yes, if you're expecting that this is going to be fought under complete 100% boxing rules and that both guys are going to try and kill each other, probably not going to happen. $100 on Jake. And Ryan, yep, saying hello to each other. Exhibition matches, that's right, absolutely. Tall Paul says, Devon also has a lot of haters. Haters buy pay-per-views just to see the one they hate. That's absolutely correct. If you know that the guy that you absolutely despise is going against somebody and they might lose, you want to see it. You want to see them lose. You want to see them and revel in their disappointment as they get beaten. Whereas, if somebody's on the card and they may be a better arm wrestler, or they may be more interesting on the table, but they're boring and they don't have a personality and they don't have a following, you might not care at all. And it's like, yeah, this guy's not as good, but he's crazy. Like, there's a backstory, or it's I want to see that guy because of this. It's not enough to just be a good arm wrestler. If you tell a story, if you have a following, if you have an interesting character, that's where people will come and watch you. The Schmo is here. Hello to the Schmo. The Schmo. I'd go in the ring with Tyson for 100 million. Yeah, so who wouldn't? That's one of the things we were talking about before about slap fighting, but it's different with an exhibition match. And in boxing, you can defend yourself. You can move away. You can put your hands up, and you can fall to the ground. And then you go, "Where's my $100 million?" You just hope that you didn't get a clean shot that completely KO'd you. Different with slap fighting, where you're literally standing there and just getting smacked in the face. The Grippler. The Grippler. Here he is, Ian Carnegie. Let's go. We were just talking about your event there, mate. So good to have you here. And yes, love the fact that there are so many different things happening with Mac and the different style of table and trying different things. That's what we've been talking about in the chat, is trying new ideas, because one of those things may be it might be really effective, and it might be something that it's like, oh, this worked really well. We're going to start doing that. And then maybe other people are like, oh, unlike what they did, those organizations are doing this. We're going to start doing that. Maybe it's the table design. Maybe it's the rule set. Maybe it's the lighting or anything. And it's like, that's how you progress the sport. It's trying different things. If you say, okay, the sport's perfect, can't change it, it's perfect now. I don't think we're at that point at all. We're so far from that. I mean, I know I always talk about UFC, and this is why the Drew said I had to bring up my UFC swear jar, which is in the podcast studio in the city, but I have to put $1 in every time I talk about the UFC, because I talk about it a lot. Look at the first few UFC events compared to the way that it runs now. They've changed rule sets. They've changed the appearance of the octagon. They've changed the way that the referee can interact with the fighters. They've changed the commission outlets. There's so many different things that have progressed and improved over time, because they've implemented different things. And it's like, we don't like that. How do we fix it? Let's try this and see if that works. And that's like, okay, that doesn't work. Let's try this. And then, so it's getting better and better and better all the time. There are still rules that I think need to be improved. One of the things with, and this is a UFC thing, is the 3 points of contact for a downed opponent. People getting kneed in the face as they're coming up, their hands like on the mat, not on the mat, on the mat, not on the mat, and they get kneed in the face. And it's like, was their hand on the mat when they were getting kneed in the face or not? Because it's like, yeah, and people that are manipulating that rule, I just think that it can be adjusted, as well as the down to 12 to 6 elbow rule. I'm not sure if they've got rid of that yet, but that's a ridiculous rule to have in there. If you can kick somebody in the head, you can surely elbow them in that direction. The reason that move was brought in as illegal was one of the athletic commission guys, when the rules were presented to them by Mark Ratner. One of the commission guys had recently been at a karate event, and he saw a guy breaking either ice blocks or bricks with this down movement elbow. And he's like, oh my God, this guy's broken 10 bricks with that move. That's a deadly move. We can't have people doing that. So, but the funny thing is, like, that is illegal. That is completely illegal. If it's not on the 90 degree, if it's 89, you're allowed to elbow that way. So it's just stupid, but whatever. Hopefully that rule will change. We're talking about that in terms of what needs to change or what can change with arm wrestling. And I love the fact that Mac is trying different things with the corners adjusted on the table, the flatter curved table, the faster starts, the matches going in straps. Unless you specifically request for them to start outside of straps. And if you do request for them outside of straps and you slip, then you're going in straps for the rest of the match. I think it was fantastic. Tyson has a temper. If Jake catches him, woo, a lot of mercy. Yeah, he does have a temper, but it's a different thing when you're in the boxing ring. That temper can work against you, because if you get frustrated and angry and you go after somebody and they're just moving away, and you're getting more and more angry and more frustrated, your technique starts going, your ability to think straight, is eliminated. If his best course of action is cornering Jake and just unloading, and he'll probably get a knockout if he does that. If the fight goes to distance, Jake's going to win it. If he fights at distance, Jake's going to win it. Yeah, and people will boo the whole time, and they won't be happy because Jake's more than likely going to win by decision. But he may get knocked out in the first round. That'll be, if Jake's going to win, he's going to win by decision. If Tyson's going to win, it's going to be in the first round by knockout. So you put 2 bets on: 1, Tyson by knockout round 1; 2, Jake Paul by decision. The Schmo. Huxley, Jake versus Don Fry, original UFC rules. Oh my God. Yeah, well, that's the difference between a match with an exhibition title and a UFC match. Don Fry would wreck Jake. I said Jake Ward. I meant Jake Paul. Jake Ward will also get wrecked by Don Fry. I think most people in the world would. Although these days Don Fry is very injured, very much facing a lot of injuries. He does do a podcast, but I think it takes him an hour to get from his bedroom to the kitchen each morning because he's in so much pain. His back is absolutely screwed. So, yes, I don't see him getting in a fight anytime soon, but he is an absolute legend in the MMA world. The original UFC rules. Oh God, that's where you could pretty much do everything. You couldn't bite. What else was it in the UFC? The first, because you could hit him in the balls. I'm trying to remember what else you're not allowed to do. I think biting was one of the only things that they had where. So, yeah, but you see the difference in the progression, and that is the main reason that the sport, well, the MMA sport and UFC was banned in 49 of 50 states, was because they didn't have a rule set or a proper rule set which looked after the athletes. The UFC hired Mark Ratner who went to the athletic commissions with a properly drawn out rule set. He used to sit on the Nevada State Athletic Commission, so he knew exactly what they would be after. He sat down with Dana White, Lorenzo Fertitta, Frank Fertitta, and they came up with a proper rule set for MMA, which is very similar to how it is now. They've made some amendments, but it's pretty similar to what they came up with originally. Yeah, they were running most of their events in what they call the dark ages, the dark times. And that was after about UFC 13, I think, from 13 to about 40. Those cards weren't able to be put on pay-per-view. Yeah, I think they were just the live shows. They were really struggling because they were banned in so many areas. But when they put that rule set towards the athletic commission, and they were able to get approval to run events in Nevada, and then they were able to do the same thing for Georgia, and then they're able to run the events and get it unbanned in each state one at a time, with the last one being New York. And the reason that it wasn't legal in New York up until maybe 4 years ago was because of the culinary union in New York was very heavily invested against the UFC. The reason being the Fertitta brothers, the Zuffa company that owned UFC, has station casinos, which are based in Las Vegas, and their workers in there aren't unionized. And so the culinary union, which is all your waiters and busboys and chefs and all the rest of it, in New York, is very much on side of being part of the union. And they weren't happy that station casinos, Frank Fertitta, Lorenzo Fertitta, were running a very big company, and they didn't have unionized culinary workers. So they fought tooth and nail to prevent the UFC from getting legalized in New York. And it was not even able to get legalized. They had to present it to like Congress, and then it had to be approved, and then move up to this thing where it would have to be voted on to be. And yeah, it took a long time. They kept getting through the first stage, and then they wouldn't get through the next stage, and it would all be down to one senator, and he would be obviously getting kickbacks from the culinary union about say no to this bill. And anyway, they eventually got it there, and good for them, because they were able to start having events at Madison Square Garden and all the rest of it. Tall Paul says Forrest Griffin versus Stephen Bonner was one of my favorite fights. Iceman Chuck Liddell was my favorite UFC fighter. Well, there you go. Yeah, well, Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner was the turning point for bringing the UFC from the brink of bankruptcy into positivity. And without that fight, you may have not seen the UFC exist at all. So they took a big punt, a big bet, if you're not from Australia, and they put it all on the line for the Ultimate Fighter reality TV series. They managed to get a deal with Spike TV, and the ratings were reasonable throughout. But they had the Stephen Bonner and Forrest Griffin match live. Sorry, it wasn't live, but it was when it was being played on TV. The viewership was going up by the minute. As you could see, more and more people were calling their friends or being like, you got to watch this fight. And in between rounds, you would see the viewership just shoot through the roof, because it was such an absolutely amazing back and forth war. And neither guy, it could have been a draw. I would have called it a draw. There was no loser in that fight. They're both absolutely tremendous. One of the best fights of all time. Both gave it absolutely everything they had. Both got given UFC contracts. Forrest Griffin was announced the winner. I think it should have been a draw. If any match should have been a draw, that should have been the one. But that got them so much attention and got so many people interested in what is this UFC thing. And then they started to watch the replays of the season, because that was the season finale. And Spike TV was like, hey, this thing's rating really well. Like, let's do another one. They were able to sort of be like, okay, we're starting to get more people interested. And the Forrest Griffin was given a contract to fight on the main events of the UFC. So people then understood, oh, okay, well, the Ultimate Fighter is a show, and they're trying to get on to this other thing, which is the UFC. So what is the UFC? And maybe find out about that. So a lot of people found out about MMA and UFC from the Ultimate Fighter show. Yeah, and it changed everything. Made them. They were $33 million in debt at that point, and they were able to bring themselves out of bankruptcy and turn things around and then start making a profit. But if that fight hadn't have happened the way that it did, then more than likely would have folded. So there you go. Don versus Yoshihiro, best match ever. Yeah. It is a crazy match. That it's, I mean, the match that you're talking about, obviously, it's Don Fry. He's wearing his American flag, a Speedo. You got Yoshihiro. They've both got a single collar tie behind each other's head, and they're both just punching each other in the face for about a minute and a half straight. I don't know if you'd say it's the best fight of all time, but they were definitely fighting. They were absolutely fighting, and it was bloody entertaining to watch, and always great to go back and watch that. Because it was just an absolute brawl. Those two forever changed their faces after that too. Yes, they did, absolutely. Epic reminded me of a hockey fight that goes forever. Yeah, that's right. It was an amazing thing to see. I'll give you a real one. Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald. Absolutely loved that fight. I was disappointed. I was going for Rory. If you haven't seen that fight, that is one worth watching. I'm probably going to spoil it for you right now, but Robbie being more of a brawler and throwing more rounded punches in his style, and Rory fighting very much behind his jab and a very good teep kick with great footwork. And both guys landed big time on each other throughout the fight. Rory's nose got broken relatively early on in the fight. He was bleeding severely from it. And then he landed a very big combination to end the round 3 on Robbie Lawler, and landed a head kick, I think, which split Robbie's mouth open completely. He had this huge gap from here to here. Was just on the brink of being knocked out when the round ended. And both guys walked up for that 4th round, staring each other down and both pouring out with blood. Absolutely an amazing moment. In the 4th round, I think maybe it was the 4th round. Rory's blood had been pouring down the back of his throat for 15 minutes at that point, and he got hit in the face, I think 2 or 3 times, right on the nose. Not overly heavy punches, but one of them landed just flush, and yeah, it was enough to drop Rory down, and he just couldn't continue anymore at that point. But yeah, what an absolute war! Both guys covered in blood, and true warriors for that. Yeah, it was absolutely incredible. Yeah, if you see there's after the match scenes, or it's called what is it? The Rise and the Fall? No, the Glory and the bitter. I don't know. The UFC has this thing afterwards where they'll put up like the highs and the lows for each athlete, and they give some behind the scenes stuff of leading up to the match and then after the match. There was a great shot of Rory, because in the actual match when you saw it live, you saw Rory go down, and then they sort of cut to Robbie celebrating, and then they sort of flash back to Rory for a second, and then he was being treated by the medical staff, and they've gone back to Robbie, and he's celebrating, and they've moved on with that. With the behind the scenes stuff, the camera stays on Rory, and he was so wrecked. Once he went down, he tried to sit back up, and he was like a drunk person. He was unable to sit up. He managed the medical staff pulled him into a sitting position. They had all these bandages and stuff on his nose, and then the lady that was holding him up has let go for a sec to pick something up, and he's just gone splat straight back on his back. It's like he was done. He was out. That was it. There was no more fight left in Rory McDonald at that point. What a win for Robbie Lawler. But yeah, incredible. Forrest Griffin is on that slap fighting. I watched today. He was catching the guys. Yeah. Well, Dana White is the owner or promoter or something. What I don't know. I've literally just tried to avoid anything to do with slap fighting because I think it's so stupid. But obviously, Forrest is friends with Dana and has been part of UFC for many years and still holds a role with them as like an ambassador or something. So wouldn't surprise me too much if he was involved in slap, and especially in the safety aspect. I'm there to catch you as you get knocked out. That sounds great. Might as well just put a bloody net behind somebody. Nate Diaz fight looked like a murder took place. Was super bloody. Nate Diaz fight. With Rory McDonald. You'll have to tell me which one you're talking about there, mate. But yeah, Nate Diaz, obviously a tremendous fighter as well. Oh, with Robbie? No. Robbie is a smasher. He is absolutely. Yoshihiro passed away. It was a long time ago, that fight. Oh, damn, they got Forrest. Yeah, absolutely. I might start wrapping things up here, guys. If you have any other questions that you want to throw forwards, probably get another 2 or 3 minutes and we'll move on. But yeah, always fun to talk about UFC and different things. And this is what's good about doing these sorts of lives is you can chat about anything and everything that goes in any direction for conversation. So yes, Nate, I'm trying to think of which one you're talking about there. The Nate Diaz fight looked like a murder. Which one is that? Nate Diaz versus Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald. Well, Rory absolutely trashed Nate Diaz. There was a lot of suplexes that he hit on Nate, and it really just opened people's eyes up to, oh, okay, this Rory guy he's next level. Like, because Nate is a very good fighter, and he was sort of in that top 5 in the division, which was lightweight, well, welterweight. I think it was welterweight division back then. And yeah, Rory came in and absolutely manhandled him, handled the striking perfectly, and then able to grapple with him as well, and just completely dominated Nate Diaz. Captain Obvious says, are you doing a commentary for King of the Table? I hadn't even thought about it really, but I think that I will. I always enjoy doing that, and because if I'm going to be watching it, I'd like to jump on and watch it with all of you guys, and it's fun to do the commentary side of it and have people in the comments as well, because I get to sort of enjoy the event a lot more because I feel like I'm watching it with everybody as opposed to just sitting there by yourself watching it. I can't remember who Diaz was fighting, but dang, it was the bloodiest fight I've ever seen. It's been some very bloody fights. Edwin DeWeese is a fighter who got, I think he was fighting Rich Franklin early on, and he got a massive elbow to the top of his head, and it looked like he had a bucket of blood poured on him. That he was covered. He was completely like red, and so was Rich Franklin as well. So yeah, that's after the elbow. Like, they were on the ground for about 30 seconds, and when Edwin got up, there was a pool of blood there. So that was one of the worst. Marvin Eastman also had a humongous gash here. It was about that thick, not exaggerating. Like, you can look it up, Marvin Eastman cut. And actually, I'm going to do it for you because I think I can do it. If I do this and I click here and I write that in, Marvin Eastman cut. And It's a blurry picture of it. Hopefully that'll come up for you guys. Let me have a look, see what we're seeing here. Da, da, da. Share this tab. I just want to show you this cut because it's absolutely ridiculous. Share this tab instead. Okay. There we go. Yeah, I'll see if I can zoom in on it for you. Oh, that's too far. There. Oh, look at that. Now that's after they've wiped all the blood off. And that's for about half a second. The cut man, the doctor who got brought in said, yeah, I can see his skull. So I think we're going to stop that fight. We'll have to Google UFC's bloodiest fight in the morning. Yeah, long-haired fella several years ago. You'll have to let me know who it was. Maybe it was Clay Guida. Clay Guida is a short little caveman-looking guy. But yeah, have a look at that. Marvin Eastman, the cut on his forehead there, absolutely insane. I think that was from a head kick. I think it was fighting Rampage. Oh no, this is Matt Leon. There you go. All right, let me jump back to this. All right. Okay, well, I'm going to finish it up here, guys. I'm going to get some food and take the rest of the day here with the family. I'm going to pick the kids up from school. It is afternoon time here. So great to see everyone in here. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much for joining in, and always good to see you. One more double bicep. Oh, there you go.